Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm so sorry for coming in late. I had issues which I just sorted out. Please pardon me. I'm still trying to load up my chat here so I can see any communication here. So I don't know if you can actually see my screen and you can hear my voice. Let me see if I can connect. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to load up my chat to confirm if you can all hear me and you can see my screen. Give me a moment, please. Okay, I think I got that confirmation here. All right. So, good morning once again, and I'm sorry for. All right. So, I want to welcome you all to yet another promising session of Extreme Speed Life, hosted by my humble self. Okay, I can see that I said my sound is a little bit low. How about now? Is it better now, please? Kindly confirm. Kindly confirm you can hear me clearly now. All right, so let's kickstart the session. Um, we are going to be starting today by looking at the pairs we deliberated on yesterday, and we are going to be looking at how well these pairs are doing before we move on to making a decision and a follow-up detail of how this today is going to be like. So first of all, the first pair we are going to be deliberating on today is definitely going to be the US oil as usual and what has been happening here on the US oil. If we look at the current structure we have here, we can see that price has continued to move in the direction we expected. So let's quickly look at what our expectations were yesterday. We were actually expecting a scenario where price will continue to the downside. We saw our price started the week at around the $78 level. We had a scenario here where price started here, and then we saw hold on a second, we saw this move to the downside, and we were around this area. Hold on a second, let me show you where we were yesterday. So we were around here yesterday, where I told you that we should be looking to sell the US oil anywhere right below the $79 level, which has been a level that has been a significant a determinant of price action since the beginning of the week. We saw a rejection of this level here. We saw a rejection and a breakdown of that rejection of that level. Price came back to do a retest of the $79 level here, and I was thinking that price is going to be going to the downside from here. And what happened afterwards? Price went in our direction and then came back right back above the $79 level, and then we saw this move right back to the downside. So what I did at this point was that I actually readjusted my entry right below the $79 level, so we took this move to the downside. And since then, price has continued to move to in our direction. We had this impulsive move in the during the New York session yesterday, and then since the early hours of today, we saw this retracement back into the golden zone area, which is somewhere around the 50% of the previous impulse leg. We saw another rejection and gave us another opportunity to join the decline. So at this point in time, price has moved is moving in our direction, and if you are already in this trade, kudos for you for identifying that opportunity. So what I'll be advising right now is to move your stop loss to break even so that you can protect your position against any sudden pullback. So now with this information we have here, let's, for those who are not part of this trade, how do you intend to take advantage of this? So if you had missed this opportunity, how do we want to look to take to join this decline that is unfolding before our eyes? Well, if we want to take advantage of this, what we need to do is to take into consideration this impulsive move that happened yesterday. We saw this impulsive move into the downside around the $76.20 area, and I want to be seeing this as an impulse leg where we want to be looking at the golden zone area as an area where we want to be looking to take advantage of the second chance. Now, bringing out our Fibonacci retracement tool and running it through that previous impulse leg here, what do we have? We have an area right between the 50 and the 78.6% as an area to be looking for selling opportunities. So for this week, we still have another opportunity within this area that we could use to take advantage of this selling opportunity. So let's identify this area. We have a sell window here where we want to be looking for another chance if you had missed the previous move that happened yesterday. So what do we have here? Hold on, let me put this right within the box. We have so we have a sell window here, and let's look forward to price coming back into this area to take advantage of another trend continuation to the downside. So we are looking at price coming back. It has already been there. I told you I took advantage of this entry right here at the $78.20 area, and let's see if price is going to come back probably into this area to give us a higher low to take advantage of that trend continuation to the downside. So that's the scenario we're going to be looking forward to for those who actually missed this move, and for those who are already in this trade, you want to be moving your stop loss to break even at this point so that we don't get caught up in any sudden pullback that is likely going to be happening. So from the current structure we have here, it looks more like a bearish momentum has been initiated this week, and as long as price continue to oscillate right below the $79 level, we want to continue to look for selling opportunities on the US oil. And before I move on to the next bit, it's appropriate that I share with you an holistic perspective of how we got to this point. And this is for those who are not part of the session yesterday, so that you can really have a sense of belonging in this. So let's go to the daily time frame and let's see what we saw on the daily time frame that brought about the selling momentum that we were expecting. So on the daily time frame here, the first thing we observed here was that price has been on a very strong bullish momentum, as you can see, after we connected the series of higher lows here to give us that resultant bullish trend line that has been holding price action in the last 2 years. Now if we zoom into the structure of price action in the last couple of months, we'll notice that price respected that bullish trend line a little bit around the month of August here before we cited the breakdown retest of that bullish trend line to give us a signal of a trend continuation to the downside. So we had a scenario since the beginning of this month. We saw the breakdown of structure. Price came back to do a retest of that structure, and since on the 15th of September, we've continued to find lower lows and lower highs. Now, with this information we have here, let's go down to the 4 hours time frame where we begin to see things more clearly. So on the 4 hours time frame, what did we see here on the 4 hours time frame? So on the 4 hours time frame, we were able to see a structure here. We had a scenario here since 2 weeks ago here, where we had a demand zone at around the $83 level. So this is where price was at last week, where we were actually looking out for bullish momentum right from this demand zone. And as you can see, buyers were trying as much as possible to push price to the upside, but it appears that the selling momentum here is still very, very strong. As you can see how price has consistently rejected the $86.50 area multiple times during the course of last week's trading session to incite that bearish momentum that led to the significant breakdown of the demand zone at the $83 level. And when we have a breakdown of structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to continue to the downside. And from a technical standpoint, we were actually expecting during the course of yesterday that price might likely come back into the structure that was broken. So we saw the breakdown of the structure last week, and we were expecting that price is likely going to come back into the structure at around the $83 level, where we want to be looking out for patterns in lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the downside. But that appears not to have happened. As we can see, price has continued to reject the $79 level since the beginning of the week, and that's so we had a multiple rejection of the $79 since the beginning of the week. And one thing about the financial market is that we must be able to flow with the tide. We must be able to flow with the market. Once the market gives us another perspective, we must be able to flow with it seamlessly. And because of this, we said, okay, fine, we had a key level identify at the $79 level on the 1 hour time frame. So let's go to the 1 hour time frame and let's see what I'm talking about here. So on the 1 hour time frame, what did we see? We saw our price started the week at around the $79 area. We saw the beginning of the week started here, and then what happened afterwards? Price broke down the $79 area, came back again to the 79.50 to the $80 level, and then we saw this impulsive move to the downside, giving us a clue of how strong the sellers are at this point. And with this impulsive move to the downside here, we are looking at price coming back into the sell window right around the $79 area, where we want to be looking for another selling opportunity. So what this simply means is that if you are already in this trade, well, kudos to you. Like I said, move your stop loss to break even, and if price comes back within the sell window here, we want to be looking to add more position to this trade. And if you are not in this trade, then we have a second chance. If price comes within this area, price actually evolves into a reversal pattern or multiple rejection of the $79 level, then we want to be joining the decline to the downside here. And where will our take profit target be? Well, remember what I said yesterday. If you are with me yesterday, I told you how we want to be using this trend line here as our yardstick for our take profit target. And what we want to be seeing is want to see how price is going to relate with this trend line here. So let's see. That is why we are having our take profit target right around the $75 and the $74 area, at least in the meantime. And let's see how price action will relate with that level. Are we going to be having a breakdown of the structure, where a retest of structure will give us a trend continuation to the downside? That is what we don't know at this point. Or are we going to be having a situation where price is going to reject that level with multiple rejection, probably evolve into a reversal pattern that will be sending price going to the upside? We don't know yet. So in the meantime, let's place our take profit target right within this area, and let's see how price action will play out in the next 24 hours. So this is how I expect to see. This is how I'm looking at the US oil for today. And if you have any question regarding what I've just explained so far, feel free to drop in your comments in the comment section, and I will be willing to be of help. So I'll be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to run through the chart, and see if we can, if there are any inquiries regarding what I've just discussed, and if there are none, we'll just move on to the next pair. So what's happening here in the comment section? All right. Okay, 587, good morning. Scott Benji, good morning. How are you today? I hope my sound quality is still very good. Is very good now. Please try to confirm. I will appreciate that if that is confirmed. Okay, Valentine, hi. Mr. Con 8, hi. Hey Nina, good morning to you. US oil expected to decline. Yeah, well, Scott, with the current structure we have here, we're still expecting that the US oil is going to decline further, considering how price has consistently rejected the $79 level in the last 24 to 24 to 36 hours now. We can see the multiple rejection of that level, giving us a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. And if we look at what happened during the New York session yesterday, we saw this impulsive move to the downside, giving us a clue into the strength of the sellers here. And with this impulsive move right here, we have, if I took advantage of this move yesterday, and if you had not taken advantage of that move, well, we have a second chance that is likely going to be coming in at around the $79 area. So we want to be looking at, I have identified a sell window right within the $78 area, $78 area and the $79.50 area, where we want to be looking out for another second chance to join the decline. So like I said, if you're already in this trade, we have an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade if we sight a reversal pattern around the $79 level or multiple rejection of that area to join the decline to the downside. But if you are not in that trade, well, this could be a second chance to join that trade. So this is how I'm looking at a selling opportunity on the US oil. However, please take this into consideration, please. However, if price breaks above the $79 level, in a situation where we see price break right above the $80 level, then we want to be seeing this as a retracement move. And what do I mean by that? If we look at what happened during the course of last week's trading session here, we saw this impulsive move to the downside right from this point here at the 85, I think $86 area. We saw price this impulsive move to the downside here. So if we see a breakout of the $79 level, then I want to be seeing that as a retracement back into probably the demand zone here, which was broken, where we want to be looking forward to a reversal pattern to join the decline to the downside. So for me personally on this one, the US oil is still looking very, very bearish despite the structure we have in here. So like I said, move your stop loss to break even at this point, and if at any point in time we sight a breakout of the $79 level to the upside, let's see that as a retracement phase, and we should be waiting for price to come within the $83 area here to look for that selling opportunity. So this is how we intend to join. So Nina, I hope my explanation was clear, and if yes, let's move on to the next pair. Excuse me. You're welcome, Nina. So let's move on. The next pair we are going to be looking at today is going to be the US Tech, and let's see what is happening on the US Tech. So on the US Tech, we still have price doing a consolidation right around this area. And one thing we said, let's quickly do a recap of what our expectations were yesterday before we go into the details of how we intend to trade the US Tech for this week. Well, during the course of the live session yesterday, we were around those points yesterday, I guess. Hold on a second, let's identify where we were. So we were around here yesterday when the live session was going on, and we said okay, fine, we already have price caught within a channel here right within the $11,350 area and the $11,200 area. As we can see, since the beginning of the week, price has been caught within a consolidation phase. So we saw this impulsive move last week. Price came into the $11,200 area, and since then we have continued to witness a consolidation phase, giving us a clue into the indecision in this market. And what I said yesterday was that we should be looking out for a signal which is likely going to be coming in the form of a breakout or a breakdown of this channel. And what happened yesterday was a breakout of the channel actually. So we had a breakout of the channel yesterday, and I said whenever we cite a breakout like this, we want to be waiting for further confirmation to be joining um, the rally or the decline, whatever case it may be. And right now we had price come back to do a retest of that structure, and in fact we had a multiple we had a reversal pattern within that structure after that retracement phase, and then price broke out of that area. So right now price is, if you are a counter trade trader and you took advantage of that move, well, I will advise you to move your stop loss to break even at this point, as you know that price is still on a very strong bearish momentum. So like I was saying yesterday, I said I'm expecting that price is likely going to come back into the sell window here at around the $11,750 area, where we want to be looking out for reversal patterns to join the decline to the downside. So this is how we were actually looking at the US tech yesterday. So we had a couple of scenarios. We had the scenario where for counter trend traders at a breakout retest of the structure to join the rally to the upside, and we had a selling window right around 11,750 where we want to be selling the US tech. And then the other scenario, we expected that if a breakdown of the channel happens, and I think that did not happen. So we never, hold on, so we never saw the breakdown of this channel, so we negate that, so that did not happen anyways. So how do we intend to trade the US tech for today as we get ourselves prepared for the New York session? Well, the first thing I want to do now is to scale up to the higher time frame. Let's have a holistic perspective into what the structure in this market is saying from the higher time frame. So going to the daily time frame, what did we observe here on the daily time frame? Well, first of all, we observed that price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and this is evident after drawing the bearish trend line, and this is as a result of the connection of the lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line. And since we already had the bearish trend line here, the other thing that also supported our views yesterday was this demand zone here. And look at how interesting the structure is here. We can see as soon as price got into the 11,000 area in the month of June, we saw multiple rejection of this level by the buyers to give us a clue into the strength of the buyers from this point. And what happened then? We saw this move. We saw something like a double bottom structure. Price climbed up to $12,000 major key level. We had a retest of that structure. Price climbed back into the bearish trend line we identified earlier, and what happened afterwards was a decline right back into the $12,000 area. And in the last couple of weeks, we saw our price fell back into the demand zone, which we identified at around the $11,000 area. So with the demand zone here right now and price still within that demand zone, definitely we want to be thinking of the possibility that price might continue to rally to the upside, or probably respect this demand zone one more time in such a way that we have price rally back into probably the bearish trend line or this bullish trend line here, with the intention of breaking down the demand zone, retest of structure to send price going to the downside. So we never can tell how price is going to go anyways, but for now we are within the demand zone, and our instinct will definitely be looking for buying opportunity at this point, as we already have a buying memory around this area in the month of June, July, and then sometime, okay, middle of July we had that, and price is right back within that area. So what we want to be looking forward to is a possible bullish pattern or structure on lower time frame. So now scaling down to the 4 hours time frame, what did we see? Scaling down to the 4 hours time frame, the first thing we will definitely observe here is how price has consistently rejected that area, so giving us a clue of a strong bullish momentum here. That means buyers are actually very strong here, and participants in this market are actually seeing the US tech as very cheap at this point. It appears so anyway until stated otherwise. So right now we have this multiple rejection of that demand zone here, and that gives us a clue of a possible bullish momentum that is likely going to be happening from this area. So we never can tell if it's going to be a long-term bullish momentum or a temporary one, but one thing we know for sure is that we have bullish signal around this area. So what do we want to be looking forward to this week? Then we have to scale down to the 1 hour time frame to see how participant has actually been relating with this level. And as you can see on the 1 hour time frame here, we already have this scenario which I showed you earlier. We had the consolidation phase here, which led into the breakout of that area. So one thing I want to be doing right now going into the New York session today is to use this level as our yardstick going forward. So we have an area around the $11,350 area, which we want to be looking forward to as our yardstick. So I'll be sharing with you in a moment what I mean by yardstick here. For those who have been part of her, so they already understand what I mean, but for those who are not, let me quickly share with you what I mean by the yardstick. So the yardstick is more or less like a level that we'll be using during the New York session to make our job easier. So whenever we see, if we continue to see price rally above the $11,350 area, we want to be looking for buy opportunity. So if price comes down that area, we are not going to be comfortable in that buy position. So as long as price remains right above the $11,350 area, we want to be buying the US tech. So right now we currently have price right above that level. So it seems most appropriate that you want to be buying the US tech around this area. So like I said, we don't know if this is going to be a long-term bullish momentum or it's going to be a short-term one. We don't know for sure. So we have our stop loss right below that level around the $11,350 area with a take profit target somewhere within the sell window, which I've identified right here between the $11,600 and the $11,900 area, which will be dovetailing to, let's say, a minimum of about 250 280 pips and a maximum of about 500 pips to catch here. So depending on how your take profit target is, your profits will be ranging within this area. So this is what we are looking forward to during the New York session today. So let's see how price is going to relate to this level. So we have our take profit target around this area. In the meantime, we want to see how price action is going to relate with this level. How we're going to be having a breakout of that structure, which might likely be sending price going to the upside, or are we going to be having a scenario where price does a reversal pattern here to send price going to the downside. So this we will know when price gets to that point. But for the meantime, let's have our take profit target within this area and let's see how price action plays out in the next 24 hours. And definitely we shall come here tomorrow to give an update and a follow-up detail in that regard. So that is that on the US tech. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in your inquiry in the comment section and let's look at it together and let's see how I can be of help and how I can make your job easier during the New York session today. So let's see what's happening in the comment section. All right, I think we have a lot of conversation between Innocent Babe and Nina. All right, okay, good morning Innocent Babe, how are you doing today? Glad to have you around. Let's see where we can get to together today. Please, at which price can we sell gold and which price is the target? Well, I've already sold gold. We'll be looking at gold right now. I sold gold this morning. In fact, I added one more position to my trade, so we'll be looking at that in a moment. I hope you're going to be around till I'm good to okay. All right. So good morning Francisco 56, how are you doing today? Good morning Axel 19. Good morning 2772. Oh, glad to hear you are good, Innocent Babe. I'm very fine, thank you. All right, so let's move on to the next pair, and the next pair is the gold as usual. And what's happening on the gold? Let's look at the gold one more time and let's see what is happening here. Excuse me. So we'll quickly run through, we'll quickly do a replay of what our expectations were yesterday, after which we will be looking out for the plans for today. So first of all, we were around this point yesterday. Hold on a second, let me show you. We were around here yesterday. I think around this point yesterday. around the $1,640 area yesterday. And one thing we'll observe here is that since the breakdown of the demand zone at the $1,660 level, which happened during the course of last week's trading session, we have seen price continue to reject the $1,645 area. We saw the first touch here, we saw the second touch here, we saw the third touch here, and in fact, it's more or less a strong signal that the sellers are very strong at this point in the market. And price started the week at around the $1,650 area. Is it 1,000? Okay, somewhere around $1,645 area. Price started here this week. We saw price move to as far as the 1,625. Then it came back into that area again to give us a double top structure. And with the double top structure happening here, I actually took advantage of that move right below the $1,640 area yesterday, and price moved about, how many pips that is? Price moved about 1,700 pips before it came back into that entry zone. So now we already have a bearish signal already on this one, as we saw the breakdown of the $1,640 area, and in the last couple of hours now we have seen a sharp rejection of that level here to give us a further signal that price is looking very bearish at this point. So since the beginning of the week we've had bearish momentum, and in the last 24 hours we have this impulsive move to the downside to give us another further confirmation that the sellers are very strong at this point. And this move right now during the early hours of today looks more like a retracement phase of that previous impulse leg here. And whenever we see an impulse leg, what do we look out for? We look out for the golden zone area, where we want to be looking out for selling opportunities to join the decline. So if we bring out our Fibonacci retracement tool at this point and run it through the previous impulse leg, we should be having somewhere between the 50 and the 78.6% of that previous impulse leg as an area to be looking for selling opportunities. So we have somewhere around the $1,645 area and the $1,635 area for selling opportunities here on the XAUUSD. So this is what we are going to be looking for. Sorry, let me extend this one out a little bit so that, oh sorry, that's this one. So we have the $1,640 level extended house. So we have our sell window here, and we want to be looking for selling opportunities right below this level. So anywhere right below the $1,640 area seems most appropriate to be selling the gold. However, like I used to say, we don't want to get our mindset fixed on a particular perspective, as we want to be very fluid and dynamic so that we can flow with the market whenever the market changes perspective. So like I said, we want to be selling right below the $1,640 area. We want to be comfortable in our selling position as long as price remain below the $1,640 area. However, if at any point during the New York session we see price break above the $1,640 area, what should we do? If price breaks above that area, well, for me, I'll be advising that we remain very patient and look out for how price is going to relate to this level. Are we going to have continuous rejection of that area, just like it's happened since the beginning of the week here? Remember, we had this multiple rejection of this level here. So are we still going to continue to see multiple rejection of that level? That is one thing we want to be looking at. And if we continue to see multiple rejection of that level, then we want to have the opinion that the selling momentum is still looking very valid. However, if price breaks out of that level here that has been rejected in the past, that is the $1,645 level, then I want to be seeing this as probably a retracement move of the previous impulse leg. And where is the previous impulse leg we are talking about here? So we had the previous impulse leg here. Remember, we had the previous impulse leg here. So if a breakout of the $1,640 level happen, let me replay that again. If a breakout of the $1,640 level happens and a retest of that structure, price might likely come back to do a retest of the $1,660 level. Remember, this level was broken last week. So we had the breakdown of that demand zone last week here. We had a breakdown of that structure, and from a technical standpoint, whenever we cite a breakdown of structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of that structure with the intention of a trend continuation to the downside. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to. As you can see, the XAUUSD is still looking very bearish. Now, where to sell is what might vary, but one thing we need to do is to one, remain patient, and two, be on standby to to take advantage of these opportunities when they come in. So for counter trend traders, if a break out of the $1,640 happen, you might want to be taking advantage of this move right here. If a breakout of this $1,640 happens and then a retest of structure, remember you want to see a retest of structure where we look out for patterns on lower time frame that support a trend continuation. And what I mean by that is if we cite a double bottom structure, inverse head and shoulder pattern, or whatever it is that supports a trend continuation to the upside, you might want to be joining the rally into this area. And remember, I want to be seeing this rally as a retracement phase, so there is a likelihood that it could terminate somewhere around the $1,660 area, which also shares a confluence with the breakout of structure that happened last week. So if you're a counter trend trader, you might want to take advantage of that if a breakout retest of that level happen, but I still doubt that is going to happen at this point. But if it happens, we should get ourselves prepared for such scenario. So this is what I'm looking forward to on the XAUUSD right now. Like I told you, I have my stop loss right above this level here. Let's see how price action plays out in the next 24 hours. So Nina, I'm not sure. Are you still there? If you are still there, let me know if you understand what I just explained, and if you still need further clarification, feel free to drop your comments in that regard. So let's see how this goes. Okay. Okay, now one more thing here is where's the target going to be? Well, I've cited an area right around the $1,600 area and the $1,610 area for our take profit target. And I think this was shared yesterday, I guess, which will be dovetailing to somewhere around 3,200 pips to catch here on the XAUUSD. So one thing I'll be saying here is this: as soon as price continue to move in our direction to the downside, and we have price right within this area at around the $1,625 area, you want to move your stop loss to lock in some profit, as you want to continue to guide the price into the take profit target. So this is what I'll be saying here. Okay, is there any other question? I'm good, boss. Hope you also good. I'm good. All right, good morning 603. All right, innocent babe, sorry. Innocent babe, are you still in the house? Do you understand what I just explained? All right, you're welcome. Glad to hear that. So we can move on to the next pair, right? So let's move on to the next pair. And what are we looking at? What are we looking at? What's the next pair we're looking at? I think we looked at. Let me see. I want to check the next pair we treated yesterday. So I think we treated USD CHF yesterday, I guess. Hold 1 second, I'm trying to. I think we treated USD CHF yesterday. Or is it USDJPY? I think, okay, USDJPY. Alright. So USDJPY was what we treated yesterday, and if we look at the current structure we have here on the USDJPY, we can see that price is still rallying within our sell window. Remember, we had this impulsive move last week, which gave us the signal of a bearish momentum, and that impulsive move also led to the breakdown of that bullish trend line, which we identified on the 4 hours time frame, and also the neckline at the 142.500 area. So we are seeing this correction, this move as a correction right back into our sell window, which is right within the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg. And if we look at the sell window also, it also shares the confluence with the supply zone we identified on the daily time frame, and also the bullish trend line that was broken during the course of last week. So right now, price is still within the sell window, and we still have a setup that still looks very bearish at this point. So what we want to be looking forward to, we said yesterday, was that we want to see reversal pattern within this area to take advantage of a trend continuation to the downside. But since in the last 24 hours we are yet to see anything like that to support that bearish momentum in that regard. So going into the new week, going to the New York session today, how do we intend to trade this? Well, for the sake of clarity, for those who were absent yesterday, let's quickly run through the daily time frame and let's see what happened and why we are where we are today. So on the daily time frame, what did we see on the daily time frame? Well, on the daily time frame, we can see that price has been on a strong bullish momentum since the beginning of the week, and this is evident after drawing that bullish trend line, connecting the series of higher lows here to insinuate that trend continuation to the upside. However, something interesting happened during the month of July stroke the month of August. We saw this bearish move. Price at the mid-month of July, we saw this impulsive move to the downside, evolving into a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure. And what happened afterward was a significant breakout of the neckline of that reversal pattern at the 135 Japanese yen area to push price right back into the 145 Japanese yen level. And since price got to that level during the first week of this month, we can see that it has been met with stiff resistance at that level. So as soon as price got into that area, we have consistently witnessed stiff resistance by the sellers to push price to the downside. So every attempt by the buyers to push price right above the 145 Japanese yen area was met with stiff resistance, giving us a clue of a possible bearish momentum that is likely going to be happening. Well, this bearish momentum, like see here, is more or less going to be a retracement phase of this impulsive move to the upside. And from a technical standpoint, like this, whenever we cite a breakout of a structure like what happened here in the month of August, we expect that price will come back and do a retest of either the neckline here or probably the bullish trend line to give us another opportunity to join the bullish momentum. However, since then, nothing of such has happened, but something here around this area is giving us a clue of a possible retracement move to happen in the nearest future. So what we did now is to try to understand what is really happening around this area so that we can make a decision in that regard. So we have to scale down to the 4 hours time frame where we begin to see things more clearly. And on the 4 hours time frame, what did we see? So on the 4 hours time frame, we were able to identify the supply zone right around the 145 Japanese yen area. As you can see, multiple rejection of this level since the beginning of this month. We saw our price as consistent. As soon as price got into that area, it has been met with stiff resistance. And right now, price since the beginning of the week, we have seen price come back into the supply zone here. And since then, we have been seeing selling opportunities around that area, giving us a clue of how strong that area is for the sellers. And one thing we also notice about this rejection of this area is it looks more like a reversal pattern in the form of a triple top structure. So, and in that regard, whenever we have a reversal pattern like this, we want to have a neckline that will be guiding our actions. So we had a neckline at around the 142.500 area, which was finally broken during the course of last week trading session. That is one signal that we saw. And then we also saw the breakdown of this bullish trend line. Remember, we had this bullish trend line yesterday, which has been respected since the month of August. Before we saw the breakout of that neckline, we saw our price has been respecting that bullish trend line. You can see what happened here, what happened here, and somewhere around here too we had it. We had multiple times price respected it before we saw the breakdown of that bullish trend line here to give us a clue that we might be having a momentum shift. So with a breakdown of that bullish trend line coupled with the breakdown of the neckline, we said, okay, fine, let's take into consideration this impulsive move and use that as our yardstick to identify a sell window. And what did we do? We identified somewhere between the 50 and the 78.6% of that previous impulse leg, which fell between around the 145 area and the 144 area. So now that we have this scenario here, we saw this, we have identified a sell window. What it did at the beginning of the week is to look out for selling momentum right within the sell window here. So let me readjust the sell window as this area is no longer relevant. So we have somewhere around here as our sell window right now. So we have our sell window around this area. So what we want to be looking forward to at this point is a reversal pattern on our lower time frame, hereby looking out for breakdown of the neckline of that reversal pattern, retest to structure, then we join the decline to the downside. So let's scale down to the lower time frame and let's see if we have a reversal pattern that we could use to guide our action during the New York session today. Well, scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, what did we see? We want to see the structure here. Okay, so since the beginning of the week, price started the week around the 143,200 Japanese yen level. We saw our price started here, and since then price has continued to find higher highs and higher lows. However, as soon as price got within the supply zone, which we identified on the higher time frame, remember at around the 145, 144,750 area, we have continued to see multiple rejection of that area, which has led into lower highs and lower lows. So we can see it appears price is continuing to drop, is dropping gradually, and one thing we don't want to do is to just jump into this trade, as we want to wait for a signal first, then we will look out for confirmations to happen, after which we want to be joining the trade. So in order to make our job easier this New York session today, I was able to identify a structure right around the 144.200 area. Like I showed you earlier, we can see how the structure here has been transposing into, we had the first rejection, price came back down, we saw the second rejection, which is a lower high, then we saw our price broke down the previous structure to find a higher low, sorry, a lower high. We had a lower high and a lower low, and then price came back up again to find a lower high. Hold on, let me show you. So we had a lower high again, and then price broke down that previous low to find a lower low, and then we had another lower high here. So one thing I'm waiting for is to see price break down the 144.200 area on the lower time frame. I want to see price an engulfing candle taking out any rejection of this level to give me a signal. And remember, we don't want to get too excited when we sight a signal like this. We want to wait for further confirmations to happen to give us that leverage to join. And how is that going to happen? We want to see a retest of structure, after which we want to be joining the decline after sighting a setup that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So this is how we want to be looking at the USDJPY for this week. So I'm still looking at a selling momentum here on the USDJPY. Now we need to consider other scenarios too as well, so that we get ourselves prepared in case something different happens during the New York session today. And what is that? Remember, we have a supply zone right around the 145 area, which is the rectangular gray box I was able to identify here, remember? And one thing I'll be looking forward to is this. If a breakout of that supply zone happens during the New York session today, we never can tell. If that happens, we are going to be seeing this as a bullish signal. But in as much as we're going to be seeing it as a bullish signal, we don't want to be too excited about it, as we still want to look out for how price is going to relate with this level. So if price breaks above the supply zone here and a retest of structure happens, after which we cite reversal patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the upside, then we might want to be joining that rally. So it simply means that buyers have actually taken out the sell positions around this area to incite a bullish momentum. But if that does not happen and price continues to oscillate within the sell window here, then we still want to continue to look for selling opportunities here on the USDJPY. So if we are going to be selling right below the 144.200 area, where will our take profit target be? Well, we need to look at the previous structure to guide our actions in that regard. And if we look at the previous structure here, we have somewhere around the 142.500 area as an area that has been respected in the past. And if we look left, we can see how this level has been a major determinant of price action. At one point at a time, we saw a sharp rejection here, though we saw the breakdown. The price came back to do a retest of this level, which pushed price to the upside. So for me here, I'll be advising that somewhere between the 142.500 area and the 140.500 area seems most appropriate. But remember, if we look at the daily time frame, we are actually expecting that price is going to look at the daily time frame here. Since we saw the breakout of the neckline in the month of August, we saw the breakout of the neckline here. So we're still expecting that from a technical standpoint anyway, that price is likely going to come back into this area to incite another trend continuation to the upside, or probably break down that level to send price crashing. So there are two scenarios that we might want to be looking forward to here, but we don't know how it's going to play out. But all we just need to do is to look at the current structure we have here and use that to determine how we want to be traded. So let's have our take profit target within the 142.500 area and the 140.500 area in the meantime, as we want to see how price action is going to relate to that level. So let's see how price action relates to this level. That is the neckline that was broken last week. Where is my okay, the neckline that was broken last. Let's see how price relates with this level. If we have a breakdown of that structure, then we want to be seeing a retest of that structure to add more position to our existing trade. And after saying this, we also need to consider this 143 level too, as well, as if price continue to move in our direction to the downside, that is, we continue to see price go to the downside here and price gets into the 143 area, we want to kindly move our stop loss to break even or protect our position at that point, as we never can tell, it could be a leverage for buying opportunity. So let's see how price plays out in the next 24 hours, and we shall be back here to look out for how the market has played out in the next 24 hours. So that is that on the USDJPY. If you have any question, feel free to drop in your inquiry in the comment section. So let's move on to the next pair here. And what is the next pair? Let's see. I want to quickly run through. So we have seen we've seen the USOil, US Tech, Gold, USDJPY. Okay, the next pair is the CHFJPY. So let's look at the CHFJPY, and that will be the last pair we are going to be treating today. Is there any question in the comment section? I'm trying to read through the chat to see if there are any questions before I move on. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Alright, so let's move on to the CHFJPY, after which, so on the CHFJPY, what do we have here? We were around this point yesterday. We were around here yesterday, I guess. We were around here yesterday, and with the situation of things here, it appears that we are still within a very strong consolidation phase, which is right within the 146.500 area and the 145.700 area. And we are still waiting for that signal to happen. And if we look at the current structure here, we can see that it looks similar to what we have on the USDJPY. Remember, we had this impulsive move during the course of last week trading session, which I told you was as a result of the Bank of Japan's intervention in the FX markets to stall the diminishing value of the Japanese yen, and that resulted in that bearish impulsive move to the downside. And what we're expecting from a technical standpoint is that there is a likelihood that price will come back into the sell window here, where we'll be looking out for selling opportunities to join the decline. However, since the beginning of the week, price has continued to oscillate right within the 146.500 area and the 145.700 area, giving us a clue into the indecision in this market right now. So participants in this market are still very indecisive, as they're still yet to make a decision on where price might be heading. And what I told you yesterday was that we want to wait for a signal to happen to give us a headway of where price might be heading, and the signal is likely going to come either in the form of a breakdown of the structure, a retest to join the decline to the downside. That is one scenario. Then the other scenario is if we are going to be seeing a breakout of the 146.500 area, where a retest of structure will give us a confirmation to join a counter trade opportunity if you are a counter trend trader, right back into the sell window here. But I told you that for me personally, I will not be buying. I'll be waiting for price to come within a sell window, where I will be looking forward to patterns within this area on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So this is how I intend to sell the CHFJPY, but till this moment we are still yet to have an headway, as price is still caught within a consolidation phase right now. So it is required that we remain very patient and wait for a significant signal to happen in that regard. So this is what we are looking forward to here on the CHFJPY. So we are waiting for price to either break out of the 146.500 area or break down the 145.700 area before we can now be thinking of entering a position here on the CHFJPY. So that is that on the CHFJPY. Is a very short one, nothing really much to say there. I'm just trying to read through the chat to see if there are any questions, and then if there are none, I'll just go ahead to do a recap of what we have talked about so far before we call it a day. So I'm trying to load up my chart right now, but it appears it's not loading. Let me try and refresh my app here. Okay. So I think while that is loading, let's move in and see. Let's move in and see. Do a recap of what we looked at today. Okay, so while it loads, we started the day with the US oil, and on the US oil we're still looking at a sell momentum here, and with the structures we have here in the last 24 hours, things still tends the current structure still tends towards a bearish perspective here. And remember, we had the breakdown of the demand zone last week, which is a further confirmation that the sellers are very strong at this point. And I showed you how price has been consolidating right within the $79 area since the beginning of the week, and the $78.50 area, which led into the significant breakdown of that $79 level. So we had this impulsive move to the downside here, which is more or less a signal from a technical standpoint, and then we saw price do a retracement back into this area. And I said, okay, fine, if you had missed this previous impulsive move to the downside, I have identified a key level at around the $79 area, and also a sell window which is around the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg,
where we want to be looking for selling opportunities to join the decline. However, we've had a couple of rejection of that area at a 50% retracements. Look at this. We had a couple of rejection in the last 3 hours. Now we had a couple of rejection here, and I said it's appropriate that we can't be selling anywhere right below the $79 area going forward. So right below the $79 area at this point seems most appropriate, with the take profit target sitting right around the $75 area and the $76 area. And the reason why that is that we want to see how price is going to relate to this trend line here. Is it going to reject it, or is it going to break down that trend line? So if price breaks down the trend line here, a retest of structure might be sending price going to the downside, or a multiple rejection of this level might be the beginning of a retracement phase of that previous impulse leg that we have here. So that is how we intend to trade the US oil at this point. So let's see how price action will play out in the next couple of hours. And I think I made mention of a caveat too on this one, where I said that if at any point in the New York session price breaks above the $79 area, then I want to be seeing this as a retracement phase of that previous impulse leg. Remember, we had that impulse leg here, so this might likely be the retracement phase of that impulse leg. This might be a retracement of that impulse leg, and if price comes within the structure that was broken during the course of last week trading session here, then we want to be looking for selling momentum at this point to the downside. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens on the US oil tomorrow. So now the next pair we looked at was the US tech, and on the US tech we're already in a bullish momentum here on the US tech, and I told you that so anywhere right above the 11,350 area is most appropriate to be buying the US tech, with a stop loss right below that level to guide our position. And I showed you something on the higher time frame, on the 4 hours time frame, that price is right within the demand zone, a very strong demand zone that has been holding price action. um, in the past we saw somewhere in the month of June, sorry, somewhere in the month of June, this area was respected, and even in the month of July as well. I think the early days of July, it was respected by the buyers to push price to the upside. And right now, in the last couple of days now, we have seen price come back within that area. So are we going to be having a bullish momentum from this area, or are we going to be having a breakdown of that demand zone in the nearest future? Well, we scale down to the lower time frame, that is on the 1 hour time frame thereabout, where we try to look at how participants are actually relating with that level. And one thing we observe here is that within the demand zone here, we can see buying pressures from this area, giving us a confidence that okay, it appears buyer is going to be taking advantage of this area one more time to push price to the upside. Though I told you that we are not sure if it's going to be a temporary bullish momentum or a permanent bullish momentum here. But one thing for sure is that we have the $11,350 level to guide our actions, to guide our bullish momentum here. I hope you're already in this trade. If you are not, I think it's appropriate that you join right above the $11,350 area, with a take profit target sitting right around the $11,750 area. And the reason why we are having that area is simply because we want to see how price is going to relate to this level. So we don't want to be too ambitious here. Let's see how price relates with the $11,750 area. If we have reversal patterns here to same price to the downside, we want to join. And if we have a breakout of the structure, a retest of structure should give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So that is that on the US tech. Then we went on to talk about the gold. And what did we see on the gold here? We saw a signal yesterday in the form of a bearish signal. As we can see, price has been rejecting the $1,645 level since the beginning of the week, to give us a clue of the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. And since we have been seeing this multiple rejection of that level, which was followed by this impulsive move during the course of yesterday's trading session, we had this impulsive move to the downside. Then we said, let's take this impulsive move into consideration and use it as a yardstick to identify a sell window. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we sight an impulsive leg like this, we expect that price is likely going to do a retracement back into the golden zone area, which I said is between the 50 and the 78.6 of the previous impulse leg, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So to make my job easier during the New York session, I was able to identify a key level at the $1,640 area, where I'm looking to sell right below that level. So as long as price continue to oscillate right below the $1,640, we want to continue to sell the XAUUSD. That is the first scenario we are looking at on this one, and I said okay, fine, if price breaks out, takes us out of our selling position here and pushes right up, we have a breakout of that structure, price comes back, do a retest, it could be a counter trend opportunity back into the $1,660 level, which was broken during the course of last week trading session. Remember, we had this breakdown of the strong demand zone, that we had this demand zone that has been holding price action throughout last week, which was finally broken during the later part of last week trading session. And once we cite a breakdown of structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back to do a retest of that structure. So in that regard, we had a sell window here where we want to be looking forward to selling opportunities here to join the decline. And if you look at the sell window here, it also lines up with the bearish trend line we identified on the 4 hours time frame. So if we have a break above of this level, I'm still looking forward to a sell momentum. If the break above of this level happen, it's still more or less like a retracement phase of the impulsive move that happened last week. So the XAUUSD is still looking very, very bearish, so we continue to look for selling momentum here on the XAUUSD. Then we went on to talk about the CHFJPY, I guess, and then what happened on the CHFJPY? We still caught within a consolidation phase on the CHFJPY as price continues to oscillate within this channel here. I don't know why my chart is not loading at this point. I had the structure here. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so we have okay, finally loaded. So we had price um consolidate between the 146.500 area and the 145.700 area, giving us a clue into the indecision that has gripped the market at this point. So one thing we want to be doing here is to remain patient, stay clear of this market, and we continue to monitor how price action is going to what price action is going to be evolving to in the next 24 hours. So what I said here is that we are looking forward to a signal in the form of either a breakout of the structure where a retest of structure might be pushing price to the upside, or we could be having a breakdown of the structure where a retest of the structure will be sending price to the downside. What I told you is that considering the bearish momentum which we identified here on the higher time frame, we had this impulsive move last week. Remember, we had this impulsive move to the downside. So we had this impulsive move to the downside. I'm expecting that if this breakup of channel happens, it's likely going to be a retracement back into the sell window here, which is within the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg, which also lines up with the neckline of the reversal pattern that was broken last week. So we look out for bearish structure here to join the decline to the downside from this point. And if we have a breakdown of the channel here, like I said, if we have a breakdown of this channel, a retest of structure should give us an opportunity to join the decline, and our take profit should be falling right around the 142, between the 143 and the 142 area, which is the bullish trend line that we identified on the daily time frame. And I told you something here yesterday, that as soon as price continues to pull to the downside, if a breakout retest of structure happens and price comes within this zone here at the 144.500 area, we want to be moving our stop loss to lock in some profit, or move our stop loss to break even to protect our position. As we can see in the past, this level has been a decision making for buyers in the past. So let's see how that plays out in the next 24 hours. Okay,
So we move on to talk about the USDJPY, which is going to be the last pair we are going to be talking about today. And what did we see here on the USDJPY following that impulsive move to the downside? We saw this impulsive move breaking down that bullish trend line, which we identified here, and then breaking down the neckline at the 142.500 area. And we saw this move as a retracement phase of that impulsive leg, and we have price right within the sell window, which also shares a confluence with the previous supply zone here, and the retest of this bullish trend line. So like I said, we continue to look for sell opportunity within this window. We are still looking forward to reversal patterns within this area to join the decline. So we are still looking for reversal structure to join the decline to the downside. And to make our job easier during the New York session today, I was able to identify an area at around the 144.200 area where I said, let's wait and see price give us a signal in the form of the breakdown of this 144.200 area. Remember, we are not getting too excited at the sight of that breakdown because we want to be patient enough to wait for price action to give us a confirmation, and the confirmation is likely going to come in the form of a retest of structure where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline. So like I said, we have our take profit target at around the 142.500 area and the 140.500 area, simply because we want to see how price is going to relate to this level. If we have a breakdown of that structure, a retest of that structure should give us further confirmation to add more position to our existing trade. Now, however, the other scenario which I'm saying here, considering the long-term bullish momentum on the USDJPY, is that if at any point in time during the New York session today we see price break above the supply zone here, remember we have the supply zone here at the 145 Japanese yen area. If price breaks out of that level, then we want to be seeing this as a bullish signal. But we want to be mindful, we want to be careful, and we want to be patient enough to wait for confirmations to happen before we want to be joining that rally. So the confirmation is likely going to come in the form of a retest of structure where we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So if we don't have a breakout of the 145 area right below the 144.200 area, a retest of that level is an area we want to be looking for selling opportunities. So that is what we want to be doing on the USDJPY for today, and I think at this point we just have to call it a day. So it has been a wonderful moment being with you guys today. I really appreciate every single moment I had with you guys, and I hope we are well prepared and equipped to take advantage of any scenario, of any possibilities that will be coming up during the New York session today. On this note, I want to wish you a wonderful day. Best of luck today, and I hope to see you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, same place, Extra Speed Live platform. And like I used to say, call your friends to download this app so that we can come here together and be part of this family as we get ourselves prepared for the New York session tomorrow. So do have a wonderful day. Best of luck, and bye bye.